Kia ora koutou. Welcome everyone to our public update on the Forrester Gallery Project. Welcome to the chamber, Chloe, and to anyone watching the live stream at home. This is an opportunity for us to get a bit of an update on the building of the Forrester Gallery extension and just get a bit better idea of the project timeline and milestones. So I will hand over to Lisa to introduce where we're at.
Thank you and good morning. So as the chair has just alluded to, today's briefing is being held in public and live streamed because we figured it's a really project of interest in our community and a really good time to be talking about it. We've got quite a lot of activity happening above the ground on site now as our project is progressing with two significant construction milestones already having been reached successfully, thank goodness, which Chloe will probably talk a little bit about as we go through, that being piling and completion of the basement slab. So yeah, good opportunity to come and talk to you. Chloe's going to walk through her presentation, including the project management approach that we're taking through this phase of what has been a decades-long project. And there is a lot in here, but we'll work through as much as we can and look forward to your questions. We were planning on being joined hopefully by a member of our project management office, but if he doesn't join us, we'll take questions and come back to you.
So thank you for that, Lisa. Chloe, are you ready to?
Good morning. Just getting the slideshow up and hopefully onto a share screen view. So welcome everyone. As hopefully people who have received the cover sheet for this briefing will know, and as Lisa's just introduced it, the purpose is really to inform you of progress on the Forrester Gallery extension to date, some updates on timelines and milestones, and to talk a little bit about some of our upcoming fundraising activities as well. I'm really conscious, having worked on the museum project stages, that sometimes we get so busy doing the doing. Once we've had our decisions from council, we go a little bit quiet to our governance team and to the community. And I think it's really important with this one that we do keep the community and our governance team informed of all the progress that's taking place. So bit of a project recap. As Lisa said, this has been a long time coming. So just to remind us of why on earth are we doing this? So we're going to have 782 square metres of extra space. We're going to have a lift, which has been a huge thing for our community. I was lucky to have my parents visiting on the weekend, and my dad from Christchurch said, "Oh, your current building doesn't have a lift." I said, "No, that's kind of what I've been talking about the last few years, but can't say it enough. We are going to have a lift. It's going to be in the new building, but it will mean that people can use the lift to access through into the old building as well." Down on the basement floor of the extension, we're going to have collection storage and a loading dock. That's going to make it a lot easier when we have exhibitions coming and going with the loading dock space. And the collection storage, currently the art collection is stored on site in 3 separate rooms. It brings it into one room. That means climate controlling one space rather than trying to control 3. The ground floor of the new space will be a large exhibition space. On the first floor, we will have an education room, a kitchen space, and a meeting room, as well as some other, things like cupboards, lovely things like that, storage for the team. And in terms of what happens with the existing building, on the first floor, that top floor there's really no changes, except for, of course, that people can travel between the 2 buildings. On that ground floor space, which is where you walk in from Thames Street, what we currently call the main exhibition space that you walk straight into is going to become more of a reception and a retail space as well, because that exhibition space will be replaced by the new exhibition space on the ground floor. And for a number of years now, the basement has been inaccessible to the public, but we'll be returning 2 of those spaces to public use for collection display. So the team working on this, it takes a lot of people to make a project like this happen. We've got Naylor Love Dunedin Limited as our main construction contractor. Obviously, Waitaki District Council is a big part of this project as well. And I really just wanted to touch on the Project Management Office. This is something that we didn't have when we started this project. Even when we went out to tender last year, we weren't up and running with our Project Management Office. This is something that we have now as a result of transformation in council, and it is proving to be incredibly useful. The expertise that 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 team brings together and the fact that they're looking at projects across council. So some of the learnings from this project that can go to the event centre, from the event centre to this project. It's just incredible to have that level of support, and it is in no way intended to diminish our property team who previously handled projects like this, but to have people whose focus is on projects rather than being pulled in many directions has been absolutely transformational for me in my role in delivering this, and gives me a lot more confidence in how we can move forward through this construction stage. Some other things with the project team, obviously we've got the Forrester Gallery team and we've got some expert consultants. And I wanted to acknowledge, as this is a public forum, the passing of Lou Robinson of Hadley and Robinson. He was a structural engineer on this project and he passed away in January. When we get to the project risk part, that has also created some work for us, but really wanted to acknowledge Lou's work on this building. And in fact, he's been involved in many council buildings and projects. So it was very sad to receive that news of Lou's passing. We've also, I've got a wee shot there of our project signboard, which you can see outside the Forrester Gallery, and you can see just how many disciplines are involved. Gallery buildings are quite complex. We've got to make sure that we're interacting with our heritage building correctly, and we've got some of our funders on there as well. We have been making use of Tilt Architecture for some specialist architectural advice. So we've been working closely with Design Tech, but with some of the things that we really needed to coordinate in terms of all the different services, be it mechanical, ventilation services, electrical services, fire services, we have been drawing on Tilt for some specialist architectural advice as well. And then, of course, funders, including the Friends of the Forrester Gallery, very important part of the process. So part of my job is keeping everyone informed on these things and making sure we're getting the information flowing. We have a monthly project control group meeting, which brings together a number of these groups. It brings together our construction main contractor, Naylor Love, Verve, who provide project management support alongside the project management office, Lisa Bailey and myself, and then input from any of those other disciplines as required.
Chloe, just for process, would you rather questions at the end or throughout your presentation?
I'm happy to get them throughout while they're relevant on people's minds, so happy to do that.
Councillor Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Searle, I just, for the benefit of anyone who's watching out there, funders, including Friends of the Forrester Gallery, this project, in my understanding, is being funded from sources outside of the ratepayer. Can you just confirm that for me?
Yes, thank you, Councillor Thompson. Yes, it is largely the construction is funded outside. There is support from Waitaki District Council to get it to the point of construction, but we are very fortunate that the project is largely externally funded.
Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, just looking at the page, who is involved and the photograph of the existing building. And what is immediately obvious is that it has a pediment at the top, or it did have a pediment originally at the top, now lost as a consequence of parliamentary legislation in the 30s after the Napier earthquake. There was a proposal at one stage to actually look at a lightweight reinstatement of that pediment as part of this extension. And I'd personally like to see the council look at some means of encouraging pediment reinstatement along Thames Street as a totality. But have we abandoned all thoughts of doing that? I know it's not part of the project at this stage, but is there somewhere in the future still some thought going on as to how it might be done with 3D printing and fiberglass or lightweight materials, which I think were what we were looking at previously? And, you know, any thought of A, that as an option, and B, if so, the costings associated?
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. So we did do a little bit of investigation when Grant Roads was still with council, and I've just brought up a photo on my phone to make sure that I am giving the correct information here. We found out that with the gallery, while it appears the pediment has been lost, something perhaps even more challenging to resolve has happened. The pediment has been filled in. So the pediment height is still there, but it has been completely infilled with concrete. So that architectural detail that shows up in the heritage photo there is lost. It appears on the current building as a solid mass. So as to what could be done, removing that concrete would affect the earthquake strengthening that was done to the building in the 1980s. So very quickly, Grant and I felt that that was not something we wanted to be messing with. In terms of how it could appear more like a pediment with some of those things that you've spoken of, such as 3D printing and so on, I'm aware that the governance team may have seen the work that's happening on Thames Street as part of Mel Jones's work with the buildings that are being painted. And one of the building owners there has been doing some work on how to reinstate pediments on his building. And I've been one of the council staff working on that project with Mel. So I'm very interested to hear how that goes. And I think there may be things that we can learn from that. It's certainly something as a Category 1 building here on Thames Street. I think it would be lovely if we could do that. But as you say, Councillor Hopkins, outside of our current scope, but something I'm still keeping an eye on.
Thank you.
Right, project milestones. So now you get a little treat of photos from my office window over the years. So this is back in 2003, and we can see some spray painting on the ground as they were about to do some geotechnical investigating to find out what was under the ground. So that was 2003. 2004 for this next one, we can see that the plantings have made way to start clearing the site, and we've got some people on site there. I'm not sure what they were looking at, but working hard to plan how this was all going to come together. And then this is also in 2004 as we were getting the site ready for work. So as Lisa mentioned, we've completed 2 of our project milestones so far in terms of the construction. The piling's been completed and the basement slab has been completed. And then our next milestone's a wee way out, but it's a big one, which is going to be the structure being completed in September. In terms of timing, we lost a little bit of timing on piling, but having said that, we needed to be exceptionally careful with our heritage building, and we really had no way of fully knowing how the existing building was going to respond to that work. So it was a case of piling for 2 hours with the excavations and then pausing to measure the building to make sure there'd been no movement in the building, and then resuming work. So it was a very careful process. And we're very fortunate that the building came through unscathed through that work. I was very nervous about that, and I was somewhat comforted and somewhat made more nervous to find out that experts were also nervous about how this would go. But luckily, we had no need to be so concerned. It has coped beautifully with it. So some time has already been gained back with a recent run of good weather. People will have seen the block work is coming up very quickly behind the gallery, and we expect no change in the overall project timing as a result of the time that it took for the piling to be completed. Another thing to note was, unlike with the Stage 2 museum project, we've had no significant archaeological finds, which is a relief. If people remember the horseshoes and blacksmith that appeared under the museum collection store, though I must say a part of me is disappointed because who knows what wonderful things we could have found from the history of the bank. But in terms of project timeline, it's a good thing that there was nothing significant found there. If people have the chance today to go for a walk, you may see a large concrete truck behind the gallery. It is getting ready to pump some concrete into the basement floor walls. And at this point, I just want to acknowledge our neighbouring property owners who the piling work at times was loud. And while we operated obviously within our consent conditions in terms of timing and overall decibels, I'm sure people working out of this building could probably hear it as well, but people were very patient with us, and now the loud part of the work is complete. More photo show. So this is Naylor Love getting established on site in February. Then we have myself and our former gallery director Warwick Smith at the sod turning, which was a lovely event. Getting ready for that piling work we were talking about. Quite complex, with not only having to be careful with the heritage building, but also just how tight that site is to work on, with the gallery bordering one side and concrete block walls on the other, really just only having that access off Humber Street to work through. Impressive bit of kit. Never realised how interesting piling was. I spent some time watching some YouTube videos to learn about how it's all done. Very interesting. And then we can see the piling caps there with the reinforced metal. For those interested in the lift, right down in the bottom right-hand corner, we can see the lift well or lift pit. And then the team working hard on pouring that foundation slab. So it was a big day, has to be poured as one single piece. So we had lots of concrete trucks coming and going. And the team working hard to get a nice finish on that. So just to orient people with this basement floor, as I mentioned, where the contractor is there with the piece of machinery, that's going to be the collection store. And then to the right of that, the loading dock space and the area with the timber infill, the lift.
So there's going to be, the extension will be 3 stories, and which will mean that the 2 basement spaces in the existing building, are they both going to be now used for exhibition areas? Because there was one at the northern side of the building. My recollection is the basement on the southern side had been used as a storage area for artworks that weren't on display. If all the artworks are going to be stored in this new basement in the extension, will both of the existing basement spaces become available for exhibitions?
Yes, Councillor Hopkins, that's correct. There'll be 2 spaces in the basement for exhibitions, and they will primarily be for getting more of our collection on show. One piece of feedback we get from our community is that it's wonderful that we bring in a lot of touring exhibitions and from current practicing artists, but we do have a collection of around 2,500 artworks, most of which generously donated to us from the community or purchased with bequest funds over the years. So the intention is for that south space and also for what our team is known as Store 2 to become available as collection exhibition spaces, which is very exciting. Concrete blocks being delivered, and I think that was last week, and they're already up quite a bit further than that. So after the concrete is put into the walls today, we will probably see some work on the floor/ceiling, depending on what perspective you're looking at it from for the next level. So September is going to be a busy month because not only is the structure going to be completed, but the roof is expected to be completed. The atrium exterior, so this is the bit linking the old and the new buildings, is expected to be completed in October. The basement fit out, and that's more of, I guess, from my point of view, the technical fit out in terms of things such as heating and ventilation rather than any gallery specific fit out is due to be completed in November. And then stonework completed in December. So one question I have had from people is they've noticed it's a concrete block building. Hang on, shouldn't it be an Oamaru stone building? Well, yes, it's going to have a beautiful Oamaru stone veneer attached to it, so it fits in with the other buildings on Thames Street. Though I did have people teasing me that it was to tie in with the council lockup at 8 Humber Street, but no, it will be Oamaru stone. Ground floor fit out completed in January, and again, that's the technical fit out of things like electrical, fire, those sort of utilities, and then first floor fit out in February, and then the certificate for public use and the handover to council also in February. And then we expect to open to the public in April or May of 2025. So at the moment on the project, 26, look at that, good catch. Thank you, good catch. No, my mistake. So we've got 6 weeks in the project timeline for specialist gallery fit out. So that's things such as that collection relocation. So we've got 2,500 artworks to move from one side of the building to another. If we can, obviously we'll try and do some of that work sooner given the basement fit out time, but it just really depends on the comfort of the contractors with having staff on site moving things around. We don't want to impact on their health and safety at all, and we want to make sure that the climate conditions are suitable for moving the artworks, etc. And we'll also be taking that time for exhibition installation, signage, making sure that everything's up and running before we open. And the other thing that we'll need to bear in mind with that 2026 opening date is just trying to make sure we can line up in the calendar with those who will want to attend, including our main funder, the Ministry for Culture and Heritage, to make sure that they can get their people on site. So project risks. As I mentioned, we have a monthly project control group meeting, and a big part of that is discussing risk. You can't have a project on this scale without having some risks to work through, and really the point of bringing it to our project control group monthly meetings is to make sure that we're all comfortable with the mitigations that are in place, and if that for any reason something's not working in that space, it can be addressed. The 5 key risks at the moment, one of which is now crossed off, but I haven't been to our next meeting yet. The first top one was that vibration around the piling work. So that has done, which is a relief. I mentioned earlier with the work we've been doing with tilt architecture, one of the things is around the integration of different elements of the plans from the different specialties, be it the fire, electrical, heating and ventilation, structural engineer. And a mitigation for this is really working with tilt architecture, who have some good specialty in this area and some good building modelling to be able to do that. When Lisa Bailey and myself visited some other facilities in the South Island that have had redevelopments in recent years, one of the things they wish they could have done differently was really just making sure that integration had happened before people arrived on site, because otherwise one trade thinks, oh, we're going to put our pipe there, and another trade thinks, oh, hang on, that's where we're running our electrical cables. So just to make sure that we're really ahead of that. Also with the structural engineer, with the passing of Lou Robinson, we've had to make sure that in terms of project sign-off, that there is someone who is from that discipline with the right qualifications comfortable to sign off on the work that Lou's done and acknowledge the work that the project management team and Hadley and Robinson have done to make sure that we have that continuity, especially because with the timing of Lou's passing in January, we were pretty much straight into the piling and foundation works in February, which is where the structural engineer's input is so crucial. Another thing that we've got to be careful for is obviously any variations from the different contractors as they put in claims. Our tender was out at the same time as we were going through building consent, and the tender was actually signed before building consent, which is not unusual, but it does create a risk there. We decided to run those processes in parallel for the matter of time, but the flip side of that is to just make sure that everyone's working to the same plans and that any variations are addressed. And lastly is the availability of funding. While we have been very successful with our external funding, we are running pretty tight, it would be fair to say. So it's just to make sure that we are continuing to fundraise, which I will speak about now. So funding sources to date. It's a great list to look at. As I mentioned, Waitaki District Council funding through an internal loan to get us to project ignition. Ministry for Culture and Heritage with their $6.5 million grant from their fund. Lotteries, Environment and Heritage with $400,000, and then funds, many of which have been granted to the Friends of the Gallery from the Stout Trust, Alexander Macmillan Trust, Christie Trust, Network Waitaki, Sargood Trust, Mercury Energy. So acknowledge and thank those funders. We've had a bequest from Ivan H. Main. The Friends of the Forrester Gallery have also done, aside from applying for funding, they've also done fundraising activities. They've done fundraising activities over literally decades, recitals, film nights. Last year we had the really successful public art auction. And we've also had some anonymous community donors, and obviously they wish to remain anonymous, but we are incredibly grateful to these individuals for the gifts. And we're talking a significant gift here. You know, this is someone who, when we achieved our ministry funding, came forth with $250,000 of their money towards this project. They do wish to remain anonymous, but obviously as a community, we should be very thankful to these people for making this gift and their faith in the project. Fundraising is ongoing. So we're working on an application to Otago Community Trust for aspects of fit out for the building, so lighting, those kind of details. Charitable gaming funds, again, they'll be fit out. Education room's going to need chairs and tables and all those kind of lovely things. There are some other smaller charitable trusts, and there's no charitable trust too small to go to, because our list of fit out details goes right down to things like rubbish bins and other tiny little details, but very important, and things I've learned through the museum project, that we need to have all those bases covered if you're to have a successful opening day. And also some community fundraising campaigns. So we've been talking with the Friends about options for along the lines of sort of sponsor something. So we've got some plans probably for the stair rises in the staircase. So switching focus slightly from the lift to how people can be acknowledged in the stairs, and also talking with the project management office. There's a large number of Oamaru stone blocks that will be going onto the exterior of the building. And while we can't etch people's names onto them, whether there's going to be some sort of opportunity to sponsor one of those blocks and be acknowledged in that. And there's probably other things that the Friends will come up with as well, but really keen just to keep that fundraising energy up there. And also there are a couple of individuals who I've spoken with who are interested in contributing to the project, and hopefully as they see it progressing, they will decide that they do wish to make a donation.
Are you still getting professional support in the fundraising space, Molly?
Yeah, that's a great question. So yes, we are still working with Funding HQ, though we're probably reaching the point now where we'll start to tail off that support, but no, still working with Jenny Giblin and her team from Funding HQ for support in the fundraising space. Yes, yes, so change from the Giblin Group to Funding HQ. Probably says what they do a little bit better. In terms of budget, as I mentioned earlier, under risks, we're tight but on track. So broadly speaking, you know, we're looking at around a $7.5 million cost for build. There have been other costs before that, and we do have the funds there, but it is a pretty tight environment. So we're just continuing to work on that fundraising and really look very carefully at especially aspects of fit out and anything that can be staged or anything obviously that's in the existing building that can be reused. Site-specific artwork. So we have been working with Okaha. People in the governance team may have come across Okaha for some of their other areas of work that they do, sometimes around archaeological work, but they also have a branch which is working with Ngāi Tahu artists on site-specific artworks. And this came about with speaking with the Runanga. We have a sort of project group with Jill, Denise and Anna, and we spent quite a lot of time talking with Jill, Denise and Anna about how they would like to be working with artists for any site-specific artworks. At that stage, we were quite focused on the exterior of the building. Then Okaha became involved, and an anonymous donor came forth with $60,000 to fund this work with Okaha, which was very timely. And I was delighted that we've had two artists put forward to work on this, one of whom is Ross Hemera. His name may be familiar to local people. He's also working on the Events Centre. We have an example of his work here that he's done for NZTA. And Ross is a former Waitaki Boys High student, and Colin Wheeler, our beloved local artist, was his art teacher. So there's some wonderful stories to tell there in connection with the community. I don't have what Ross is proposing for the gallery to show you today, but it's fair to say that the piece I've got here is similar in terms of working with Oamaru stone and cut metal work, and Ross's ongoing artistic exploration to do with local rock art, and he's looking at the atrium space, the new wall in the gallery. We're also working with a audio artist, Tia Barrett, and if people have visited the gallery recently in the vault space, we had one of Tia's works on display. So it's very exciting to be able to work with these artists on what they may contribute to the building. And we also have this piece, and this was acquired by Warwick in the 2000s. It's a sculpture in Oamaru stone by the stonemason and artist Marcus Wainwright. And I think hopefully Warwick wouldn't mind me saying this, but I feel it's a typical Warwick detail to buy the artwork for the building and worry about the building later. But I'm very grateful to Warwick for this purchase, and we're looking at how this can be integrated into the building as well. People may wonder about the subject matter. So this is a sculpture called Judith. It's a classical biblical scene, but incredibly fine Oamaru stone sculpture from Marcus there that we also look forward to situating in the building. Opening exhibitions. So as I said in the introduction, we're looking at an April to May next year for opening, which given we are now into June, we've got less than a year until we expect to be there cutting ribbons and drinking champagne and whatever else happens at these kind of events. So the team is working hard on what exhibitions we are going to open with. As Councillor Hopkins inquired earlier, in terms of those basement spaces, the 2 spaces in the basement, one of which was until 2019 an exhibition space, they will be returned to exhibition spaces with a focus on collections. And they're probably going to have quite a collection store feel to them. So they won't necessarily be a sort of white box exhibition space. They will probably have some racking on the walls and an ability to get quite a lot of the collection out onto display at any one time. And while they won't be permanent displays, they probably won't change with the frequency that the usual gallery shows do, simply because it's our collection that we're wanting to show off of artworks of our district by our local artists. So rather than having maybe a 2 to 3 month run, there will probably be shows that might be up for a couple of years at a time, focused on a particular aspect of the collection. Up in the main exhibition space, without wanting to sort of sound too cryptic about it, we're looking at some artworks that have been shown internationally recently, and I can't go into the details because we're still negotiating with it, and I wouldn't want to say that, oh, we're about to get these shows and if we couldn't. But I think aside from the building itself, if we are successful in those negotiations, they will be something that will be very attractive for people to come and see in Oamaru, and we would again look to have a longer run for that show because of the complexities of bringing something of that nature to the gallery. And it's something that while it has been shown overseas, does have quite a strong local link. So I hope in due course we can announce successfully having secured that show. Then in the upstairs spaces, we've been working in some conversations with local textile artist Sue McLean and her husband Rod, and their long-running Waitaki Tartan project, and what that might look like is one of the displays on opening. And there's also been some discussion with some artists from the Pacifica community to look at whether they may partner with some local artists and what that might look like as well. So quite a rich mix of shows in play. Still a few details to finalise, but really excited that we should be able to open with a suite of shows that shows the breadth of, I guess, artistic talent here in the Waitaki, past and present. Right. We're up to my second to last slide. Questions, discussion, what you were expecting to hear from me that I haven't covered off.
Thank you, Chloe. Just one from me before everyone else gets into it. Like, we've got 2 major projects nearing completion around the same time, but you mentioned earlier that there has been some coordination with the project management office and change and transformation. I'm assuming there's sort of planning in place to make sure those, as both reach completion with the event centre as well, that there's coordinated efforts with openings and that sort of thing.
Absolutely, that's a really important point, because we obviously don't want to shadow over each other with these important things, and to make sure that they work well in concert with each other. So I think the event centre is probably going to be a little bit ahead of our date, but yes, good question.
Cool. Questions? Feedback? Comments? Councillor Hopkins.
At last week's LTP meeting, it was mentioned that we had discussed at some earlier point with regard to fees and charges, the possibility of having a charge for out-of-district visitors to facilities like the museum and gallery. And given that this opening does involve a significant expansion of galleries' size and also cost, be it loan and so on. And noting that I think in Dunedin, there was a report in the ODP last week that indicated that although certain facilities had decided not to charge an overseas visitor fee, the Otago Museum is going to, and I think it was quite a significant quantum. Are we looking at a charge system, and what work are we doing that might allow us either in association with the opening of the extension, or shortly thereafter, to introduce some charge for people out of district?
Yes, Councillor Hopkins, it's definitely something that we do need to look at, especially with the move announced from Otago Museum next week. I guess they've kind of opened up that discussion for the South Island following Te Papa's decision last year to charge overseas visitors. I believe we'll be coming back to council with a discussion on that. There's always sort of feasibility aspects to how we go about levying a charge in our facilities, but it's something I think we do need to look at. And as you say, timely with the changes to the building, there'll be a period where we're probably closed to the public for about 6 weeks for that fit out, which I neglected to mention earlier, but we're lucky we're being able to operate throughout the construction. But during that time, it may well be where we look to implement something like that if we can work through the logistics.
Thank you.
Councillor McCone.
Just a question, I'll be quite honest though, it's not something I take a lot of notice of, but so I believe we have a lot of very valuable and paintings and other things in that gallery that we just don't see because of what the condition, are they going to be open to the public or more accessible to the public once this is finished?
Yeah, great question there, Councillor McCone. Yes, the intention is that they will be far more accessible, both through those 2 collection spaces on the basement floor, but also in terms of the balance where it comes to security for some of those works. People may recall that the gallery, prior to needing to meet some fire restriction control situation, we had some viewing windows through into the collection store in the basement, and then we had to replace those with solid core doors and people couldn't view through them. But I'm pleased to say our new collection store will have a window into it, so people who are in that basement lobby, if there's some things such as Colin McCann works that maybe can't be out all the time for security, people still will be able to see them through in that space. So we really do believe in making the collection as accessible as we can.
Anyone else? No? Oh, thank you so much, Chloe, for coming in and giving us this update. It's really exciting to see the progress and yeah, get a bit better update of where things are at. So thank you very much. Is there anything else that you want to add before we?
No,
wrap up?
as per normal, it's just my thanks to the governance team, obviously, for persisting with this project over many years and different traffic light stages and all sorts of things. And thanks again to all the community supporters for this project and our funders. It's a bit like when you watch the credits roll at the end of a movie. It takes a lot of people to make something like this happen, and I'm very grateful for all of their support.
Fantastic. Oh, thank you very much, Chloe, and to anyone who has joined the live stream today. I hope that's been informative and helpful. Lovely.